Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on YouTube? It's Filthy and we're back with another video. Today we're going to look at the High Elves faction. We're going to go through the rares. We're going to talk about all of them. We're going to know which ones we think are straight trash chickens, which ones worth building maybe to 40 for early dungeon progression, keeping for faction wars before you then turn them into a 5-star chicken. You can never make a mistake leveling a champ to 40 in this game. We'll talk about some that you might want to keep to 50, and then we've got a few that are potentially 6-star worthy. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's video on the Bannerlords. Thumbs up always appreciated. Subscribe if you're interested in this type of content. Before we do get going though, let's just have a quick little word on an uncommon. Elfguard, so I think she's farmable from the campaign. She is farmable from the campaign. In fact, you can get her from the market and from mystery shards. She's got an okay kit for faction wars. A1 attacks one enemy, 25% chance of placing the small decreased attack buff. You can't book the chance up, unfortunately, so it's just 1 in every 4, but decreased attack is kind of okay for an A1. And then on the A2, she's got a pretty big turn meter reduction, 50%. So she just needs some accuracy to land this. You can book this down to a 2-turn cooldown. There are people who do funny stuff with Spider, all the way up to 20, Spider 20 with this chick. She's got miserable defense of 700, not great HP of 13,000, speed 92 is slow, but you certainly can build her out, so she's somebody to consider. So dealing with the high elf rares, arguably one of the best rares in the entire game is Apothecary. I was very lucky to get him on my first playthrough of the game 3 years ago. His kit is definitely rivals most epics. There's an argument that he's almost as good as some legendaries in this game, probably better than a few, like your worst trash tier legendaries are probably not as good as this guy. He has a triple hit A1, so great for Fire Knight because 3 hits. Also, he can pump out a bit of damage if you get him to 60 and put Giant Slayer on him. He's got a heal on A2. It is books down to a 2-turn cooldown. This is why he is the best healer, because he's just fantastic. It's a 35% HP heal. You can book it up a little bit higher than that. The heal can crit, so if he has high crit rates, he then will crit and will give extra healing on top. I don't know if crit damage makes the heal bigger, but he heals an awful lot with his A2. He's one of the best healers in the entire game. His A3 puts the big version of increased speed on everybody for 2 turns, and also turn meter fills 15%, and it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. And he's got an allied defense aura in dungeons 21%. As we said in previous videos, you can get Greybeard, who has a bigger dungeon defense of 30%, but Apothecary's kit is just fantastic. His HP is 17,000, defense of 1,000, both of those really good, and speed 106 for a rare is absolutely phenomenal. Realistically, this is a guy who I think if you pull him, you should be jumping for joy. You probably should be 6-starring him. You have to have a reason not to 6-star this guy, and the only reasons I can think are, like on our account, we've pulled Lysandra, so we don't really need the increased speed, albeit he's a different affinity to it anyway, so he would still be useful. And you've got a really good healer anyway, but it's hard to find somebody better. So he's almost a 6-star, no questions whatsoever. I mean, if you don't get him till later on in the game, and you've got plenty of high elf epics and legendaries, your team's completely sorted, don't build him for the sake of building him. But he is great in clan boss, great in dungeons, just great absolutely everywhere. And now we get to Avenger, and this goes downhill pretty quickly because she's not very good. She attacks one enemy. She has a 30% chance of placing the small version of decreased defense for 2 turns. Not great, not bad. It can book up to 50%, which for a rare 50% decreased defense small version on an A1, not terrible, but not brilliant. A2 attacks at random 2 times. She gives herself a 15% crit chance bonus. That's awful. She attacks on her A3 1 time and it's always critical. That again is awful. And she has an attack faction crypt aura of 17%. The awfulness continues because her HP is low at 12,000. Her defense is low at 800. She does have good speed. That's the only thing she's got going for her. I always chicken her. She is just always a chicken. I wouldn't even keep her for faction wars. Elhain is a starter champ. She is pretty good. Let's do a kit and then we'll talk about what you would do with her. So attack one enemy. She does a second hit if she crits. So if you build her with 100% crit rate, this is essentially a 2-hit A1. Her A2 attacks one enemies, then attacks all enemies. So it's like one hit on one person, then it hits everybody. Has an extra 15% chance of inflicting a crit, so it increased crit bonus on this. Places a 30% increased crit rate on her for 3 turns if she kills somebody. So you can do a bit of jiggery pokery with a crit rate, but obviously you would want this skill to crit before this goes on. So whether this is useful is debatable. That books down to a 4-turn cooldown. Then her A3 attacks everybody twice, so again double hitter. So she's got multi-hit on all 3 abilities potentially, and she's got the standard starter HP aura 15% all battles. Stats wise, HP decent, 14,000. We've got defense of 800 is a bit low. Attack is actually quite nice at 1200 because she is a damage dealer. Speed 107, really good. Now, I don't think she's an automatic build if you pull her. Even if you start the game with her, I'm not sure she's an automatic build to 60. She's definitely worth keeping because she's got all these multi-hit abilities. That's kind of potentially useful for Fire Knight, potentially useful for damage, because all these because they're all hitting twice. That's handy. You've got AoE on the A2, AoE on the A3. Putting her in a stun set can be quite viable because you'll get some stun procs. So she could add a little bit of crowd control to the damage, but realistically, other than that, is she somebody you're going to have long term? And the answer is just no. You can use her in secret rooms when you get to end game. You can use her in faction wars, so you certainly can build her up to 50 and try and use a bit of crowd control in a stun set. But other than that, I just don't think she's got enough utility. I just don't think she brings enough. She's all about damage, so she can nuke in the arena, but ultimately, if she isn't your starter champ can do some damage for you. Poison, HP burn, they do more damage rather than her. Rhonda's going to do more damage than her. So realistically, I don't think if you're a new player and you pull her, you should be building her. Now you can take it to 40 and keep her for faction wars and see how you get on. You can take it to 50, and if you really, really like and you're struggling for high elves, you can maybe go up to 6 stars, but honestly, I'd be very reluctant to build her in today's current game up to 60. It's not. I don't think she's worth it just for an arena nuker. You'll come across better options as you go. But she's a decent champ. When I first played through the game, I picked Galek. I don't like him. I got Elhain. I 60'd her first, and actually looking back, I think it was a mistake. So, honest opinion. Next up, we've got Adjudicator. He's a rare attack-based champion. A1, 20% chance of placing 50% heal reduction for 2 turns. Chance is not very good. She, I don't think, justifies book usage to get this up, but that would help potentially with the Spirit Keep Crypt. Second ability, attacks one enemy, 50% chance of decreasing turn meter by 20%. This is really poor. Does improve with books, but again, I think she's a waste for books, so I wouldn't do it. A3 attacks twice at random, 50% chance of increasing cooldown of a target skill by 1 turn at random. Not great because it's inconsistent. You don't know which skill it's going to be. Again, books would improve it, but I just don't think she's worth it. The best thing she's got going for her is an arena aura 40 accuracy. You're probably never going to use this. You're going to use speed in the arena pretty much all of the time. So I think she's a bit of a chicken. HP 13,500, not great. Defense low, 870. Speed low at 994. I just think she's a chicken. I would always chicken an Adjudicator. Heiress is an interesting one because she is farmable from the campaign. It's quite easy to get. A1 attacks one enemy extra turn if she kills somebody. She's unlikely to kill many people, so it's not going to go off very often, but it is potentially an extra turn. She then will do a debuff removal from all allies, so it's like a cleanse, but only 1 debuff, so it could be quite useful. Then she has a 60% chance, but you book it up to 100 of putting the big version of increased speed on for 2 turns. Increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown and removing a debuff is actually quite a nice move. That's probably a little bit underrated. And she's got very interesting passive. Counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. Generally speaking, what you tend to do is you put her in either a toxic set, so that when she counterattacks, she procs the small version of poison, or you put her in a stun set, so that when she counterattacks, she's got a 17% chance of stunning. She doesn't need any accuracy for either of those 2 sets. You don't need to build with accuracy. She's also got a speed aura for dungeons of 16%. I think she's a decent character. HP's low at 12,400-ish. Defense is decent at 1,000. Speed's not great at 94. She's got some uses. I haven't built her on my free-to-play account yet, despite getting plenty of copies of her. I think she's also used in one of the fusions. You could certainly force her, absolutely. She would do a little bit of work in faction wars for you. She could help chip down a boss. Again, High Elves, I can't remember which stage it is, but one of them, I think, I can't quite remember. Faction wars, if there's a boss with the HP swap move, if there is, then putting her in a destroy set and chipping away with the counterattack could be an okay option. But realistically, I don't think she's worth taking to 50. So I'd probably be saying she's a 5-star chicken at best, and definitely not a 60, unless you're trying to do something really crazy with Clan Boss, activating the counterattack. But you can play with her for a bit, because the increased speed until you get somebody else who does that is quite good, and a cleanse is fairly useful. Your champs get stunned going through waves, they get frozen going through waves, they get provoked. She'll wipe it off every 3rd turn, and that's kind of nice. So maybe somebody you could play around with, maybe up to 50, and then use her as a chicken once you outgrow her. Magister, the most annoying character in the game, and that is because Magister looks exactly like Apothecary. And when this character pops out, you think, great, I've got Apothecary, jumping for joy. It turns out to be this person, who's not very good. A1 attacks one enemy. If this is the hit is critical, places an increased attack, small version, on a random ally for 1 turn. Rubbish. So you've got to have high crit rate, then you get the small increased attack on 1 champion ally for a turn at random. Don't want that, it's no good. A2 places revive on death and 30% reflect damage on a target ally for 2 turns. Heals everybody else by 10% of the target's HP. I mean, again, just like if this was everybody, it would be okay. But reflect damage on 1 person, revive death on 1 person, it's at random, it's giving a little bit of heal. I don't like that move. 4-turn cooldown as well, it's not good. A3, AoE attacks all enemies, 50% chance of doing the small version heal reduction for 2 turns. Again, 5-turn cooldown. I think this is a pretty rubbish move. Heal reduction you can get from just equipping a cursed set. The AoE is on too long of a cooldown to be worth it. And HP aura faction crips 22%. I think this guy, or gal, not sure, is a chicken. HP 18,000, good. Defense 900, getting there for okay. Speed okay, well, to good 101, but ultimately not worth building in my opinion. Probably a chicken. Fence rare attack champion. Attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each hit has 15% chance of placing the small version of decreased speed. So again, this is like going to be activating like 1 in 4-ish kind of turns. You can book it up to a better chance, but still the small version of decreased speed, so it's alright. Not good, but alright. A2 attacks 1 enemy, 75% chance of placing stun for 1 turn. Can book that up to 100. Steals 20% of the target's turn meter if the stun debuff is not placed. So you either stun them or you take 20% of the turn meter. 4-turn cooldown though, you can't book it any lower. AoE on the A3 attacks all enemies, and she has a 75% chance of placing the smaller version of decreased defense for 2 turns. No point in this. You can go and get War Maiden, who does the big version of this move. So the 60% decreased defense. She's free to book because you can get as many copies as you want. So the only question is it worth getting the small version of decreased defense for your faction wars? Is basically the question. She has an ally attack in dungeons, aura 23%, no good. 15k HP, low defense of under 800, speed dead on 100. So you could use her in Faction Wars to start off with. So you could certainly 40 her with a view to taking her to a 5-star chicken until you got somebody else who could do decreased defense, like Royal Guard or Tyrell maybe. You could also just chicken her straight away. It depends how you feel about the High Elves Faction Wars crypt. So 40 maybe to 50, but with a view to chickening her later. Hyria, rare attack champion, A1, attacks one enemy, 25% chance of critting, not particularly useful. A2, attacks one enemy 3 times, each hit has got a 35%, books up to 50% chance of placing the big version of poison for 2 turns. Again, on my first playthrough of the game, I got very excited about this champion, booked her out, leveled her up pretty high, I think maybe 50 to use her in Clan Boss. Her A3 attacks one enemy with 2 random allies, so it's ally attack, and they use their default skill, books down to 4 turns. So I was thinking Clan Boss, cool, pair her with Kale, he'll go in with his A1, get poisons. She's got poisons on her A2, that's going to be nice. She's got a crit rate arena battles, you're probably never going to use that. She is miserably hard to keep alive. She's got 12,000 HP, which is really low. She's got 749 defense, which is pretty low, and speed of 101. Really, if you don't have anybody else bringing poison for Clan Boss, I certainly think she's worth building to 40. Again, you can turn her into a 5-star chicken later. Poison is a good move, not very consistent. I wouldn't book her. I think it's a bit of a waste. Outlaw Monk does the big version of poison. He's an uncommon. You could invest in him up to 40 rather than Hyria. Ally attack will eke out a bit more damage on Clan Boss, so she's not a terrible champion. I wouldn't be saying she's an instant chicken, but I wouldn't really. I mean, she's definitely not 60. You wouldn't take her to 60 in a million years. I just don't think she's good enough. I mean, maybe if you're absolutely really struggling for a poisoner and it's a choice between her or Outlaw Monk for 60, I mean, I'd still probably try and wait if you could. But yeah, I'd say 40, maybe 50. But ultimately, again, she's going to be a chicken at some point. Prosecutors is a newer rare. So attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 20% chance of decreasing turn meter by 10%. Goes up to 30%. Turn meter decrease on the A1 is very useful. It's on both hits as well. So I kind of like that. It's a nice A1. Then we've got an AoE on the A2, 50% chance of placing the big version of decreased speed. That can book up to 75%. That's really good. Decreased speed is underrated debuff. It just stops, obviously, the enemy taking turns. They get fewer turns. It's an AoE as well, so you could go for stun set on a 3-turn cooldown. That could be a good move, get a bit of extra debuff utility. A3 attacks one enemy 3 times, so triple hit, which is nice. Places 50% increased accuracy buff on her before attacking. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing the 100% heal reduction for 2 turns, booking up to 40-55% on that. Really, I guess that's designed for finite because she's boosting up her own accuracy. She's then hitting multiple times to get the shield down, and then hopefully eat one of those hits. If the shield's not already down, she'll place the big heal reduction buff. HP 13,500. Defense not great, 837, probably very low. Speed is not great at 96. I think she's an okay champ. You could use her for a few things. The AoE decreased speed would help you in dungeon waves. She's not like control, she's not going to stop. She's not going to lock champions up, but decreased speed is nice. Turn meter still on A1, and then she's got triple hit here with big heal reduction. You could use her for Fire Knight. I think she's a candidate to being taken to 50, depending on where your account is at. If you've got tons of people doing multi-hitters, maybe you're planning on building up a couple of Armigers to deal with Fire Knight. You've got Talia, you've got Rhonda. Maybe you decide you don't need her. Maybe you've got Crimson Slayer, who's got a kit with multi-hits and heal reduction. If she can fill that role for you, I don't see there's anything wrong with taking it to 50 to use her out in dungeons. But other than that, probably a 40 for Faction Wars. Again, looking to replace her as at some point. I don't think she's a 60. This kit, whilst it's got some redeeming qualities, taking somebody to 60 just takes so long. Another new-ish one here, Medicus. So this is support champion, A1 boring, attacks one enemy 2 times. Second hit, I guess, is better than nothing, but nothing else here. Have we just done this? Have we just done this? I feel like we've just done this. The same move. Attacks all enemies, decrease speed. Attacks all enemies, 15% chance of placing the smaller version of decreased speed for 2 turns. So it's even worse. Again, all the same points as the last character. AoE, you could use a stun set, I guess. And then on the A3, places 30% increased defense on all allies for 2 turns and increased speed on themselves for 2 turns. Increased defense, the small version, is okay. This champion's not good enough for books, so you're never going to book them. So it's going to be 2 turns out of every 6. I think this is getting very close to being a chicken. Maybe a 40 for faction wars, just to help with the increased defense to get you through it. But again, as soon as you get somebody better, they're going in the bin. HP 16,500 is good. Defense 881 is low. Speed's very nice at 106 though. So yeah, again, it depends. If you got lots of high elves, you don't need any excuse to take it to 40. You can chicken her, and if you do need them, don't hang on to her for too long because she's not that good. Interceptor. This was my first ever Void rare, I think. I was dead excited. Void rares must be good. Not so much. Defense based. Attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing the small version of decreased speed for 2 turns. Not terrible, not amazing. A2, attacks one enemy, 45% chance of placing sleep debuff for 2 turns. Worst debuff in the game, so we don't like it. Places a 15% weaken for 2 turns if the skill does not place the sleep. You'd rather have the weaken than the sleep. Sleep's rubbish. As soon as somebody gets hit, they wake up. So it's no good. Again, you're not going to book her, so none of this stuff is going to be applicable further down. And then she's got an AoE turn meter decrease, pretty small, 15% on a 6-turn cooldown. I think she's pants. HP 15,360 is okay. Defense is good at 1100. Speed 84. My god, that's got to be one of the lowest in the entire game. She is a chicken. The only reason I would keep her, I think, is if you need to complete your advanced quests of, like, you need to do a tag arena battle with a void and she's your first one. But other than that, she's garbage. I'm trying to think if she's used in a fusion, I'm not sure. Reliquary Tender. This chick's amazing. On my first playthrough, she was one of my first 60s and she really helped carry me. A1, attacks one enemy, 20% chance of placing the small version of decreased attack for 2 turns. This is a champion who is worth booking because her kit is really good, so you can actually get this up to 30, 40, 50% chance. It is the small version of decreased attack, but on an A1 for a rare, I think that's actually pretty good. A lot of books, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. A2, this is her best ability. It is a complete cleanse, removes all debuffs from all allies, then puts the big version of continuous heal on them for 2 turns. Books down to a 3-turn cooldown, so brilliant. Every 3rd turn, completely takes all the debuffs off you, and then puts you up continuous heals. Really like that move, it's really strong. She also has a revive, so a ally, 30% HP and 30% turn meter, booking down to a 5-turn cooldown. Now you can get Broadmoor out of a permanent fusion, so you can have access to somebody with a revive. That is a full team revive with block damage afterwards. This is only a single target revive. It's a low amount of HP, low amount of turn meter, but it's still better than nothing. And I think she's a pretty good reviver. HP is 18,000, which is good. Defense is getting up there for being pretty good at 960. And then speed of 103 is nice as well. I like her. If I got her on this account now, this free-to-play, I would 100% put her in a queue to be 60'd because decreased attack is always handy. Cleanse and continuous heal is just really good. I still, on my level 97 main account, use Reliquary Tender on the Nether Spider, the cleanse. You know, she's I used her an awful lot. I got a lot of value out of 60ing her, and obviously she'll be amazing for faction wars. So I would definitely, again, you need a reason not to build her. Maybe you don't get her until after you've got Sill of the Drakes and you think, well, don't need a reviver. Maybe you've got a Doom Priest already who does tons of cleansing for you. Maybe you complete the fusion that we've got on at the moment for Pytheon and he does a cleanse. So, you know, don't just build her blindly just because I'm saying she's really good. If you've got access to a cleanse, if you've got access to a revive, if you've got access to decreased attack, there is no reason to build her other than for faction wars. And while she is a really good champion for faction wars, you could probably get away with her being 50 for that. So there we go. So that is the High Elves. Thank God there are not as many as the Bannerlords. That video seemed to go on for absolutely forever. But basically, we've got a couple of really good ones, Apothecary and Reliquary Tender. The rest, I think, are all pretty pants. Elhain is probably the pick of the bunch. I know a lot of people like her because she is your first champ. You always never forget your first one. But I think she's probably quite overrated, personally. I wouldn't really build her on this account. We have pulled her. I chickened her. So that probably tells you where I'm at with her. I hope you enjoyed the video. I've been the Filthy Casual. Take it easy, guys. Peace.